we were at a low and there was nowhere really to go but up. If you're on this side of the pendulum, there's only one place to swing, and that's the other side. The other thing I would say is that Mesa County tends to lag the rest of Denver and the rest of our culture and our country by a good 10 to 20 years. I mean, I moved out here and I see flip phones. Like, I haven't seen a flip phone since like 2008, 2009, but there's tons of people with flip phones. There's tons of businesses that don't have a website. When I ask them, why don't you have a website? Why do I need a website? So you can monetize your business outside of our geographic region so people can find you. Well, you found me. It was just dumb luck. I was going to go to your competitor until I drove by. So Mesa County kind of drags behind the rest of the community. So I think the trends that we're seeing in the large urban libraries like Denver, Jefferson County, Arapahoe, they're a bit ahead of us. Like, we're still circulating a lot of CDs. They got a drop in their CD circulation 8 years ago. We're starting to see that drop in CD circulation now. So we may see that drop start to hit us. I don't know that it will, though, because Mesa County is a smaller community and we connect better with our, we can actually connect with our patrons a lot better than Denver can. In Denver, there's a lot more distractions, a lot more noise. There's just a lot more voices competing for a Denver person's attention. And so the library is just one voice competing, whereas, we're in the front page of the newspaper all the time because we make big news and we do big news. And that brings me to one of the last points I would say. The staff here does really cool stuff that really matters to our community. And so I think, yeah, we could see some of that downward trend happen, but because the staff is really good and I've done my best to empower them and just get out of their way, I hope that that won't happen. I think people will continue to check materials out, check DVDs out, continue to come to our events. I mean, Comic-Con's huge. It's going into its third year and we're going to be at Two Rivers. I mean, we had over 3,000 people for the second Comic-Con. That's massive, especially for this community. And for the library, that's become our biggest event in 2 years. So if I can continue to empower my staff to do things that matter to the people of Mesa County, I don't know that we might see book circulation drop a little bit, but I think it will hit an equilibrium and then stay flat. So it might drop from a high, because we were on a low, it swung to a high, it might eventually settle in a decent equilibrium. I don't think it'll ever drop as low as it will in Denver. Because it's easy still to get to the library. We're a small enough community and people like coming here and they like the human contact, and my staff is just really freaking good. And I think I've done a good job of getting out of their way, also giving them really cool tools and resources like the studio that have had massive impact on people going, look what the library's doing. And we're doing stuff that's constantly putting us in the newspaper. Whereas Denver Public can't do that. Like, I'm friends with their head librarian, and Michelle wrote an article for the newspaper, and so she got in there, but she's buried. Like, we're on the front page multiple times a year. We've got the co-working space, we've got the studio, we've got Comic-Con, we've got all this stuff that puts us on the front page. So I'm concerned about that trend hitting us, but at the same time I've got a really good staff, and we're all really well focused, and we're a good team.
Well, one of the big changes when we had our renovation here was changing the collection space and allowing for more student workspace. So we went from having 8 study rooms to 25. We went from half of the second floor and half of the third floor having our book collection to half of the third floor. We have a storage facility where we keep a lot of older issues of periodicals, limited use books, government documents. We didn't have a storage space before the renovation. So I think you'll see a number of different things. I think we've made some very forward-thinking choices in that we have a flexible 24-hour space. You guys wanted it, we put it in, it gets used. you wanted more computers, we doubled the number of computers so that there isn't a line when you need to print your paper, which is what we were seeing. We included more collaborative spaces, more whiteboards, things that accommodate for the variety of work that students are expected to do. They're expected to do group work. You're expected to study together. We actually check out some non-traditional items now, like anatomy stats. So I think there is going to be an increasing amount of non-traditional items. We've grown our graphic novel collection to suit the shifts in content that English classes might be dealing with. I've worked to grow our documentary collection to help support Mass Comm students who engage in that kind of work. As far as electronic resources, yeah, I mean, with new programs come new database needs. There's databases that we still don't have, obviously. More than anything, I think how students approach their education is what's going to determine how well libraries survive at academic institutions. If we make it like high school and just try to pass all you through so that we have high numbers, you're not getting anything out of it. If you walk into a classroom and assume that your being there means you should pass, you are not remembering that you paid for a seat in the class, not for a grade. Just do the stuff that you think is important for you and you get a degree. But we value more than that. We value that as a library, we value that as an institution, and places like public libraries value that in the community. The higher the education level of a local community, the more well off the community tends to be. There's more culture. There's, human services are financed. You have security with the people. You can take care of the people who are struggling, and you can help the people who are moving forward to move forward. It helps housing values. It helps all sorts of things. The local school system, because people can pay the taxes to put more money into the school system to make the improvements. We under-acknowledge, I think. I don't think we undervalue it. I think we under-acknowledge the contribution that having learning and information at your fingertips has. And libraries are also typically seen to be money out for the institution. We have tremendous worth, I think tremendous return on investment, or ROI as people call it, and same thing community-wise. Public libraries, tremendous ROI, but we are by and large an expense. We're a public service. There's plenty of public libraries that are no more. There are buildings throughout the country that'll say, this was a Carnegie library, and it's just a vacant building, meanwhile it was funded by one of the wealthiest men America has ever known. So you're like, how did that not survive? There are places like, say, Philadelphia is a good example, where you may not have a babysitter after school because your family may not be able to afford it, but you know that hanging around the streets is not a good idea. There are libraries. You can go and you can learn, but you can also go and be safe and have a healthy environment to be in until it's safe for you to be back with family. And they do a public good. Public libraries very much similar in that regard, that we just value people having access and opportunity. Learning is huge, and the second you undervalue the importance of learning and knowledge is often the point at which your society starts to decline. It is a sad reality, but when you start putting everything else ahead of education, you've already failed your population.